There is a moment when nothing needs to be named anymore. Not because everything is understood, and not because questions have disappeared, but because life is no longer being organized around explanation. This episode is about that moment, not as an ending, but as a recognition. Life is still happening, and you are still here inside it. Earlier, awareness may have felt like a shift, a change in perspective, a movement away from something. Now, it feels less like a shift and more like a condition, not something you return to, something that remains. This doesn't feel dramatic. In fact, it often feels unremarkable. You wake up, you move through the day, you respond to what appears. Nothing announces itself as important, and yet nothing feels out of place. This is what life looks like when it's no longer being compared to an internal ideal. You're not measuring the moment against how it should feel. You're not asking whether you're doing this right. You're here. And being here doesn't require commentary. This season has moved through tiredness, through responsibility, through uncertainty, through quiet confidence, through continuing even when nothing feels resolved. And what remains at the end of all that is not an insight, it's a steadiness. Not the kind that feels firm or permanent, but the kind that doesn't need to be maintained. Life continues. Some days are easier, some are heavier, some feel clear, some feel dull. None of that threatens anything. There's no sense that you're about to lose what you've found, because there's nothing to lose. You're no longer holding yourself together. You're being held by the fact of living. This changes how you relate to change itself. Change no longer feels like something that happens to you, or something you have to prepare for. It's just part of the movement. Things shift. Circumstances evolve. People come and go. You meet each change from where you already are. You don't brace. You don't rush to adapt. You respond. This response isn't strategic. It's natural. Earlier, you may have felt responsible for steering your life, making sure it was on track, making sure it made sense. Now, life doesn't feel like something that needs steering. It feels like something that unfolds while you participate. You're involved, but not in control. That balance is subtle. It doesn't feel empowering in the usual way. It feels relieving. There's less tension in decision-making. You still choose. You still act. But choices don't feel like declarations about who you are. They're just steps. Taken. Adjusted. Moved on from. This also changes how you relate to endings. This episode isn't an ending. It doesn't close anything. It simply marks a pause. A place where nothing is being built toward. A place where life is allowed to continue without narrative. You may notice that you no longer need to frame your experience. You don't need to say you're in a season. You don't need to explain what phase you're in. You're just living. And living doesn't need a label. This can feel anticlimactic, especially if you're used to transformation being obvious. But this kind of living is durable. It doesn't depend on momentum. It doesn't collapse when energy drops. It doesn't require belief. It works on ordinary days, on tired days, on unclear days, on days where nothing moves forward. Life continues on those days too, and so do you. This season hasn't been about becoming more present. It's been about noticing that presence doesn't leave just because nothing special is happening. It hasn't been about finding peace. It's been about stopping the internal argument that peace requires certain conditions. What remains now is a quieter relationship with life. You don't expect it to fulfill you. You don't expect it to explain itself. You meet it, moment by moment. This doesn't make life smaller. It makes it workable. You don't need to arrive anywhere for this to be enough. You don't need to complete anything. You're already inside what you were looking for, not as an answer, as a fact. If you're listening to this and noticing that life feels simpler lately, not easier, but less contested, that's not a lack of depth. That's depth without tension. And if these reflections have helped you live this season a little more honestly, you're welcome to stay with the channel as it continues. Liking the video helps it reach others who may be quietly learning to live without needing life to resolve itself. If someone you care about feels like they're waiting for something to change before they can begin, You're welcome to share this with them, only if it feels right. Life doesn't arrive, continues, and so do you.